Good morning. I have to say the words, I've never been a sinner, I've never sinned, no truer words have been spoken. I just putting that out. In Mark 8:27, Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" His disciples reply, "Well, some say that you're John the Baptist, returned from the dead, and others say that you're Elijah or one of the prophets." Jesus then asks, "But who do you say that I am?" To which Simon Peter replies, "Thou art the Logos, existing in the Father as his rationality, and then by an act of his will being generated in consideration of the various functions by which God is related to his creation, but only insofar as Scripture speaks about the Father and Son and the Holy Ghost, each member of the Trinity being equal to and intersecting every other member with only an economic subordination within God, but causing no division which would make the substance no longer simple." To which Jesus replies, "What?" If I were to choose just one word to describe Jesus, it would be essence. Among Jesus's other names are Essa and Issa, which are related to the Greek word eis, meaning one. In the Essene teachings, Jesus is the master healer, whom the Greeks understood as Iasos, the goddess of healing. My mother and I shared a belief in the afterlife. A few months after her passing in 2014, she was able to share through a medium details about her transition. She says, "I have seen Jesus. He is not like what they say. He is more vast than I expected. He's not human-like, but a love, a grand love for everyone and everything. He doesn't judge anything. This is a pure love, a pure light. I have seen everything in a new way." Nevertheless, in predominantly Christian societies, many souls encounter Jesus in the familiar guise of an elderly brother or a shepherd. Yet we in the West are all but ignorant about the experiences of souls who are aligned with alternate spiritual teachings. So I'm going to share an abbreviated version of an extraordinary story. In 1977, following years of abuse and neglect, an 8-year-old white girl by the name of Robin was abducted from the United States and abandoned in Rhodesia at the height of the Rhodesian Bush War. Following serial abduction and abandonment among the 3 warring factions, she became physically and emotionally broken. Yet the African expression, "it takes a village to raise a child," was very much at work when she found protection among the tribeswomen who risked their lives to care for a white child. She says, "The village brought me in with the singing and the ceremony. It just filled me up. I was so hungry, so broken, like a wounded animal." One woman sang to Robin as she held her. She says, "I literally collapsed in her arms and let her be my shelter, my mother." Robin experienced her first near-death encounter down by the creek when a soldier's bullet grazed the top of her head. On the other side, Robin is greeted by 2 Black women, big sisters, gesturing toward a glowing orb. Robin understands that she'll be fully healed if she enters the orb. But she says, I really was attached to the sisters because I had finally found family and I wanted to stay with them. My confusion sent me into a dark tunnel where I had to purify my self-blame about being abused. The part of me that thought that something was wrong with me. My guide helped me to understand that there was nothing wrong with me and that the abuse wasn't my fault. Robin and her guide then continue through the tunnel to a field where they encounter a bearded man wearing a long-sleeved felted robe and carrying a shepherd's staff. Although Robin still longed to rejoin her African family, she felt peace in his presence. She said, "When I was trying to figure out who he was, his face changed to that of a lion. And I thought, oh, I want to show Otto, one of the men in the village." And then his face changed to Otto's. And so the bearded man was showing me that it's not the form that matters, it's the connection. This connection is further demonstrated when the man touches his forehead to Robin's. She sees a vast matrix of living minds. At the center of each living mind is a sparkling gem. Robin says, "We can strengthen these living minds with our focus and our love." After the man steps back, 8-year-old Robin's faith and trust in him is absolute, and she leans into him. He then carries her over the place where she had died, and she sees her African mother wailing as she presses the top of Robin's head to stop the bleeding. Robin wants to assure her mother that she is without pain. I then went further into the tunnel, and there were more beings that purified me, and I knew that I was going home, which felt to me like the great heart, the place where I was sung into being. I was going home to that place of origination. But then I heard the song of my African mother, and it was so pure that I stopped to listen. Here Robin remembers that she hadn't fulfilled her life's purpose, which is to be a medicine singer, like her mother. She says, "I too am to sing to people, to help them to remember themselves." Thus Robin offers insight about the significance of land song, her last name. Soon after Robin returned to her life, her village was attacked. As Robin was being carried away from the village, her mother was shot on the open side of her body and both fell to the ground. Her mother commanded Robin to run. Still too weak to help her mother, Robin ran and then collapsed before she reached the protection of the trees. Beyond the veil in her second near-death experience, Robin sees a bejeweled man with beautiful violet skin. His black hair is gathered in a bun on top of his head. He is androgynous, she says, but intensely powerful. I just felt like this being had the power to make a mountain with his hands and to destroy the mountain 2 seconds later. Ultimately, he communicated that the destruction makes available the ingredients for new creation. Thus, the erosion of the mountain creates the beach. He also tells Robin that she will resume her life as part of a greater cycle, and then commands her to move toward the nearest well. I literally crawled for the rest of the evening, and the next day I was found by a woman from another village. In the following weeks, Robin was returned to the United States, and 45 years later fulfills her mission in Mount Shasta, California, under the name of Robin Aisha Land Song. And if you're interested in her story, there's plenty on the internet to look up that name to find out more about her mission and her life. In hindsight, Robin recognizes her encounter with Lord Shiva, the Hindu god of creation and destruction. Shiva is rooted in the number 7, which is echoed in severance, separation, and saber. The chaos following dissolution is simply another name for potential. In Genesis, we're taught that God ends his creation on the 7th day, which we also know as the Sabbath. How might our outlook change if we understood ended to mean not perfected, but destroyed in the great creative cycle or yuga that begins anew on a higher plane of consciousness? In any case, prevailing wisdom states that NDEs are influenced by personal experiences and beliefs. Yet 8-year-old Robin had not been raised in the Christian faith, nor had she been exposed to the Hindu faith. Was her experience rooted in soul memory, or did it simply meet her soul's readiness for the next quantum leap in her evolution? As I tried to grasp the limitless nature of God, Shakespeare puts me at ease. There are more things in heaven and earth, Gretchen, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Well, of course. When stated this way, the vastness of God seems all but impossible to discuss in any meaningful way, but I'm still determined to try. Nevertheless, there's a certain frustration in the seeming futility of the endeavor, especially when I'm continually reminded about how much I have forgotten, and further about how much I have yet to learn. And yet these doubts do little to dampen my enthusiasm, because in this moment I recognize that I'm all that I know about God and the promise of eternal expansion. In another near-death encounter, one woman describes the presence rumbling with energy. She says, I could feel this rumbling in my bones, and I knew that something big was coming. I never saw a person, yet I always refer to God as He, just because this energy feels very masculine to me. I heard him telepathically say, I am, and I'm like, yeah, you are. She says, I don't think that God is a man. Rather, he's this mix of masculine and feminine because he's nurturing. Another person affirms that although God's light has a male quality, the nature of his kindness distinguishes him from all men and women. In this age of enlightenment, many women are offended by the generic use of he when speaking about both men and women. In John 19:30, Jesus says, Ish himil, it is finished. In Aramaic, the word he is translated as it, the provident spirit that exists outside of oneself, whereas the complementary she is rooted in the shamanic energy of Gaia. She is the healer, the medicine singer, the spirit medium, the prophet, the keeper of tradition, and the bearer of new life. Every woman is a man endowed with a womb. Moreover, the word man may be found at the root of the Sanskrit mantra and means mind. Thus, it is easier to understand mana as a spiritual nourishment. In Luke 6:21, Jesus says, Blessed are you who hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. However, in the Essene Gospel of Peace, from this book, Jesus says, Happy are you that you hunger for the truth, for I will satisfy you with the bread of wisdom. Our Father who art in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. We are human, brethren, conceived and dwelling in the holy breath, learning how to balance the masculine and feminine energies through countless incarnations. In countless NDEs, we are further reminded about the bliss of God's embrace, an experience likewise beyond human capacity to describe it. As one woman states, there really are no words in any language to explain what it feels like when we merge with the holy light, which is often described as brighter than 1,000 suns. Who wouldn't want to remain enveloped for an eternity in this incredible bliss? Certainly, a soul blissfully rocking in the arms of God may be compared to a ship gently rocking in the safety of a harbor. But we all know, or at least can hopefully admit, that while ships are protected in harbor, ships are not built for risk-free existence. We must venture beyond the safety of heaven and learn to navigate and overcome the storms of our own making. Ultimately, we are here to expand consciousness, to expand love in the service of God, Source, all that is. I've heard it said that the Earth School is the most difficult in the universe because the veil of forgetfulness challenges each soul to remember his purpose, to find his way back to God. By comparison, other planetary schools don't pose this challenge, and souls in such environments live in a constant state of remembrance and grace. Since my own journey of awakening began 38 years ago, I've become acquainted with many unseen helpers or guides. While the general belief is that this assistance is limited to a personal soul guide, many entities eagerly await our requests for their assistance, since such assistance confers mutual benefit in the service of God. In addition to my own soul guide, my mother and father, who have both passed, assure me that they're around me and my 4 siblings. Master Shen has accompanied me through countless lifetimes and forgives my inability to remember our connection. A group of souls also assists me with my main mission, which is to understand the foundational meanings of words. Moreover, I have been told that at least one master, Paramahansa Yogananda, is around me, perhaps to assist me with my mission as I learn Sanskrit, and even to assist me with my meditation if I ask. If you don't feel personally connected with your own soul guide, perhaps you can ask, when thinking about my guide, what name comes to mind? Trust your intuition and open the channel to communication. So who art in heaven? Besides God, Jesus, Shiva, and sundry ascended masters, archangels, and personal guides? Well, our recently transitioned friends, Janet, Rose, Esther, and Ray, who surely dwell in paradise. As much as any of us may be longing to drop out of the insanity of this earth school to join them, let us hold that thought and be patient with our lesson plans. As one survivor of a blizzard in Mount Everest reminds us, once you've been dead, it's easy to have a good day. Indeed. Blessed are we who hunger for the bread of wisdom, who remember God and our missions in the service of love. May we rest in the knowledge that our places in heaven are assured. So it is.